We're here today in the oldest church in San Marcos with Mary Williams, whose family has lived in the area for almost 120 years. So Mary, I drive by this church every day, and I've always been curious about the history of the building. It's a beautiful structure. It honestly looks like it could be off a movie set, a postcard, something.
Yes.
And I walked in today and I noticed the windows are slightly different. Some are pointed and some are round, which seems unusual, and I'm guessing there's a story there.
The reason the windows are different is this is a combination of two church buildings. One from Encinitas that was brought, that church had been built in 1887.
Wow.
And it was brought by horse and wagon and set at the corner of what is now Pico and San Marcos Boulevards. The other part of this church was in the Richland neighborhood where my great-grandparents lived. And that was sawed in half and brought on a steam tractor, and the two halves were fastened to the other building from Encinitas.
Wow, I'm guessing that's pretty unusual. There's probably not a whole lot of two churches combined into one structure in the shape of a cross,
That's
too,
right.
isn't it? Yeah.
I always heard that in all my growing up years, that we were proud of the fact that this was a cross-shaped building.
And why did they choose that location?
That location was so convenient to the hub of San Marcos. The train depot was 1 block away, and the other part of town, the grocery store and the other buildings were right there. That was the center of San Marcos.
It was the hub, really, of
Yes,
the
it
whole
was the
town,
hub.
huh?
And actually the San Marcos Church, which was then put together there in 1903, that was the social center as well as the religious center of San Marcos.
And we've mentioned that your family has a long, long history here in San Marcos. What can you tell me about their history?
Well, the Fultons are one of the pioneer families here in San Marcos. And my great-grandfather, John Fulton, homesteaded in 1893 on the road that is now named for him.
Fulton Road,
Fulton
yeah,
Road.
I also drive that a lot, yeah.
So he built the house and the barn in 1893. And another interesting point is that it has been continuously occupied by people in the family. I am the current one living there now.
Really?
Ever since it
Wow.
was built, it's always had Fulton people in it.
So your family was really an important part of the church, I'm guessing. And
That's right. I know for a fact that no one was married or buried in San Marcos unless my grandmother, Helena Fulton, would sing for those occasions.
Quite a voice, huh?
Yes.
And so there was a real community center. There was a lot of social events tied with the church back then, right?
That's
Yeah.
right. And I can remember the fun of coming here in Sunday school. We got to ring the bell. Here was the rope, and you had to have your turn to ring that bell.
It's still here. It sounds great.
It
Yeah.
sounds just the same. And then they would ring it to call everyone in the community time for the worship service.
So you attended the church, and then eventually you were married here.
That's right. I followed in my mother's footsteps. She had been married in the Methodist Church, and I was married here in 1966. We were one of the last couples to be married in that location over at Pico and San Marcos Boulevard. In 1984, the building was moved. They again sawed in half and brought over here to this location next to the cemetery. And now it is Grace Episcopal Church.
And if you look around today, is this pretty much what you remember from when you were a
Exactly. I
child?
feel
Yeah?
so familiar with it. They did such a great job of restoring it. I commend everyone who had anything to do with moving it and rebuilding, and restoring it, just like to preserve the history.
And you were telling me things like you look around at the stained glass, for instance, and the memories just flood back to you.
That's right. After we said our vows and we were walking out of the front door of the church, you look up and it's the same stained glass window that's here now.
Well, it's a beautiful building, and you've answered a lot of questions I've always wondered about all these years driving by the building. So I really
Good.
appreciate sharing your time with me.
Well, it's been a pleasure.
audience.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.